Hello, and welcome back to the Argyle CX/UX Leadership Forum. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our esteemed speakers. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speakers. Scott Brown, Head of Zoom Customer Experience Sales and GTM for Zoom, and Jeff Harling, Head of Digital Support for Zoom. We are excited to have Scott and Jeff with us for a keynote presentation titled Digital Support, Zoom's Journey from Startup to Standout. Welcome, Scott and Jeff. Over to you.
All right. Hey, Nick, thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Also want to take a minute to thank the participants and attendees. Good morning, good afternoon, potentially good evening, depending upon where you're joining from. As Nick said, my name is Scott Brown. I look after our customer experience portfolio. And I think there may be only one esteemed speaker this morning, and that would be Mr. Jeff Harling. So I'm anxious to kind of kick this off and bring Jeff into this conversation. Jeff heads up our digital support capability from a global perspective. And what I was hoping to do today is just kind of frame the conversation and really ask Jeff some super meaty questions with respect to his business and what he's built. But by way of context, when Zoom talks about customer experience in terms of what we're doing and where we're going and what we've built so far, we have been in the contact center business, or contact center as a service, if you will, business for about 15 months now. We've been learning every day from our customers around the world, and it's an incredible journey. We also have a virtual conversational capability called Zoom Virtual Agent, conversational AI capability that's also part of the portfolio. And just yesterday, we announced general availability of our workforce management capabilities inside of our portfolio as well. So we're going to continue to build, continue to innovate, excuse me, and continue to listen to our customers. However, one of the things that is unique to Zoom is that we always want to make sure that we are our first and best customer. So whenever we think about innovation, and whenever we're working with customers on new ideas, oftentimes the proving ground will be within our own organization to prove out capabilities, kind of tweak some of the roadmap enhancements and features, et cetera. And that's why I was so thrilled to have Jeff join us this morning. Jeff, a little bit about your background, if you would, and then I also want to frame up kind of your scope of responsibilities within Zoom. But tell us about you, first of all.
Thanks, Scott and Nick. I'm humbled by the introduction. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. So Jeff Harling, I am Denver, Colorado based. Been with Zoom for about 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was a leader or participant in some digital support self-service organizations at RingCentral, Comcast, Avaya, AT&T, and Zendesk. And in all those experiences, I really rounded out my my knowledge of content, knowledge management, of self-service and digital support delivery, chatbot AI capabilities, community, social media, and search engine optimization. And that's the organization that I lead here at Zoom includes aspects of all of those. And it really is the front line for our Zoom customer experience. Zoom customers come to us many different ways, through many different means. Sometimes they call us, sometimes they chat us, but it really is our objective to understand where the pain lies, where the concerns are, and to capture those to understand what best solutions we can deliver as quickly as possible. And I think, Scott, you touched on something that I think is really important for us to share here, is that we're not just about selling customer experience products. We're about also utilizing those, leveraging those for our own customer experience and ensuring really perfecting them, frankly. My team is involved right now in a number of efforts to utilize Zoom Contact Center, as well as the upcoming Zoom Virtual Agent capabilities that you mentioned a moment ago.
Excellent. And then Jeff, tell us a little bit about what you stepped into day one at Zoom, what the ensuing maybe next 12 to 18 months brought for you and the team, and then ultimately, where you, if there is such a thing as landed, but where you landed and where you are today. Take us through the journey, because I think it's quite fascinating. Your day one and then what you actually experienced.
Yeah, so imagine joining in 2020. Late 2020, and it was a bit of madness. The eye of the storm, as I like to say, coming into this and into Zoom. First, it was thrilling to get the opportunity to be involved in such an exciting time, as well as exciting company that was in the midst of really helping to solve many of the work from home challenges that we were having during the pandemic. And so I come into Zoom. There is no self-service strategy to speak of. There is really no customer experience that is digitally focused, because we had really been a startup up to that point. I mean, we were an overnight sensation in March of 2020, and then we really grew from toddler stage to teenage and adult stage very quickly, and became quite mature in a very rapid manner. And part of that maturation was really bringing in a number of leaders from different businesses for various different roles, me being one of those, to build out an organization from scratch. I initially had no direct reports, which had not been something that I had not been a position I'd been in for many years. And then suddenly building an organization, bringing in experts for community, for content management, for web experience design, and chatbot, et cetera, and pulling all these folks together and bringing together a really cohesive team around that. I would say hiring in that era was quite challenging. Identifying the strategy, ultimately, what is the big picture. But luckily, in my case, I had done this a few times before with other companies. I've seen this at large scale, seen this at small scale. And I really had an idea in mind when I came in, when Zoom leadership said, we need somebody to own this organization. Building out that strategy initially was, on paper it was easy, but then going and getting the experts, bringing together, ensuring that I had all the boxes checked. It was a little bit of a challenge, and as you can imagine, in that time when some people were disconnecting from work, there was some hiring challenges. There was a lot of competition in the workforce space. But ultimately, we have a team that's right now, I think, one of the best in the industry.
That's outstanding. And Jeff, again, day one, you're kind of framing up the mission, framing up the vision. Tell us a little bit around, volume, maybe once you became operational from a digital sense, and then what that grew in, maybe over the next 8, 10, 12 months.
Yeah, that's a great question, Scott. And I have to tell you, you'd probably be surprised to hear that not a lot of folks really had discovered that Zoom had a support website, had a chatbot, had all these capabilities that were there for them. Initially, when in 2020, when people are running to Zoom and signing up overnight, growing our business, 10x, 20x, et cetera, week over week, we're not hearing, the support side is not really hearing from the customers. There's this relationship with the sales and account executives that continued, and for us to really build out a support experience that was attractive for customers so that they could make the transition and they could count on us to provide them solutions was a bit of a paradigm shift for our entire organization. Initially, when folks were coming in and they were going to the Zoom homepage, about 1 out of 80 times that they were actually going and visiting our support experience. By the time we had transitioned over and built out the new support experience within the last 18 months, now for every person that comes and visit our homepage, for every 6 people that visit our homepage, 1 of them is going to the support site. The ratio is huge. We're getting a stickiness now. People are leveraging our chatbot, 5 million chat engagements a month. People are seeing it as an opportunity for them to come in and get a solution, and we're proving that out with a customer satisfaction rate that is mid 90s right now, and something that I have again seen this at other companies, and I had not seen such a dramatic shift and then capture of the customer satisfaction rating as much as we have. maintaining between 93 and 95% consistent CSAT is something that in the support industry is not common.
Wow. And especially when you think about just the significant increase in volume. So, going from maybe just a collection of FAQs on a web page to, a conversational AI capability with a focus on, really self-service and how to expedite, customer inquiries or how to resolve an issue faster in that sense. And then also, making sure that the technology that you're using continues to evolve and grow with you as the number of kind of customers and inquiries will grow as well. I find it fascinating when you talk about, kind of building out that vision and building out the team, you're always very focused on, the end result of providing that level of capability and providing that level of service from a digital perspective. And I never hear you use the word, maybe containment or deflection. And oftentimes, when organizations look at technologies like digital or self-service, there's a mindset that says, hey, we're doing this because it's going to be more cost effective for us. And I don't hear you and have never heard you say that. You always focus on the end result. And I want to just get inside your head a minute and just, kind of understand kind of your process and logic behind that.
Yeah, and it's a fair question too. I would tell you, most of my peers in my space, when I talk to other folks that are leaders of digital support and self-service organizations, they're really numbers based. They do talk about containment. That's usually a number that's dropped quite commonly. We talk about traffic and click-through rates and so forth, and handoff numbers. And it's honestly, if you're building a customer-centric organization, it really is about the outcome. It really is about the solution. The customer will tell you if they're happy with what you're delivering or not. The customer will, of course, the numbers will be there when the solution is built in such a way that they find satisfaction and get their solution, 100% of the time when they need to, and they've got a live person that's there as a backstop when they don't. And that's the type of experience that I'd like to see built. I've seen this done very poorly. I've seen this done very well. And I really believe, after having sat down with so many customers, literally hundreds, if not thousands of customers over the life of my 20+ year career, I have heard from folks that say, I just want something that works. I want something that's on demand and just in time available to me. I can Google search, or I can come to your site. It's easy to navigate, easy to find. And I don't have to contact a live person unless it's urgent. If it's urgent, then I need them there immediately. I need to have that easy button that I can push and get right on through to the agents that can support me with a critical issue. And that's really what the solution that I build, that I beat the drum constantly with my team, that this is the type of solution that we must build. If you build a solution and you take it home and you share it with your spouse or your mom or your kids that are, taking Zoom over, their third grade class, et cetera, is over Zoom, and they don't understand the solution, then we still have work to do. And that's really what my focus is. Again, zeroing in on the customer experience. And if everybody doesn't get it, then we still have some effort to put in place.
Got it. Something you said, I think is critical, and this, oftentimes gets overlooked. But when you think about a customer experience, whether it's digital in nature, whether it's a live interaction via chat or via voice or via video, the kind of the holy grail, if you will, or the true north is, how do you provide those experiences in a way where, you can actually escalate to a modality necessary, when it's appropriate. And so it's essentially, what I heard you say is that if you have a self-service capability, an on-demand capability, and that actually will be, achieving a high rate of satisfaction, a high rate of resolution. However, in the event that issue or that critical nature of the problem or challenge needs to get to a live human being, I know that you've talked about all of the context that's been captured inside of that experience will actually terminate at a live agent, so that we're not asking customers to repeat themselves or be repetitive in their asks, et cetera. I know that you were early in that journey, and you've actually been progressing on that. So when the live agent actually picks up, we're able to kind of, if you will, read through or kind of ascertain the context of what the issue or challenge was. And if I reflect back on the conversation originally, the digital sense and the high resolution rates that you have also, will translate into better experiences when they have to go to a live agent, because essentially, you're not stopping and starting. It is one contiguous journey. It is one contiguous motion, which I think we all seek out when we have an issue or we have a question that we'd like to be answered. When you fast forward that then, and you think about digital and some of the output metrics that you've spoken about, how do you measure then the effectiveness? You talked about customer satisfaction. That's a primary one. What about things like capacity? So is there a sense of, hey, this used to be 500 live agents, and now we can actually do more with less and make sure that the agents we have are handling the real meaty, serious, significant problems? How do you measure that type of impact?
Well, I have to tell you, where I sit, I sit amongst really three leaders. So within customer support for Zoom globally, we have a team of about 1,500 associates. That includes Premier support for those folks that sign on to Premier Services, which is I have to say, some of the best I've ever seen. Our customer support organization, which handles, all the live customer support globally, and then myself, digital support. So one of those three organizations are at the ready to help Zoom customers all the time. Capacity-wise, aligning with those other two leaders, Scott and Kara in my case, to ensure that we are deploying the correct tools in the right places. Zoom Contact Center, workforce management for Zoom, Zoom Virtual Agent. These products that we're implementing are actually helping us to understand, forecast, identify gaps, and be able to apply capacity to really kind of evenly spread our experience, frankly, throughout the day. And that day is 24/7. So for us. So I would say, working very closely with those teams to understand where we are seeing pain points at peak periods, where we're seeing service impacting events that could have otherwise been addressed through a web experience of some sort. We use our community as a kind of a first responder of any kind of service impacting events or issues that the customers are experiencing as well. And then, of course, on the back end within the contact center, that we have a great, as I said, Zoom Contact Center platform and the workforce management capability that was recently deployed. All of this experience is being constantly tuned. We're working closely with our product teams to understand what's working and what's not for us. Really, where are customers, seeing longer hold times? Where are they seeing, maybe better experiences, and bringing those together, kind of smoothing out the edges across the board. I have to say, I have never been so engaged in all those prior experiences in companies that I mentioned I worked for previously. I've never had a team that's as fully engaged with the product development as we have. This team, this organization is daily working with product engineering to help them understand really what's working, what's not working well. And the product team at Zoom absolutely responsive to all of that. And so I just have to put in a plug there. That's not a sales pitch, but I can tell you from my own personal experience being an outsider, it's working so well. We're building the experience based on how customers are seeing us and where we're doing well, and where we're not doing as well. The product team is being responsive to that.
Yeah, and Jeff, I think that's a great point. In terms of the Zoom Contact Center platform, as I said, we've been in market with that for about 15, 16 months now, and during those early days that we have been rolling this out, and certainly getting feedback from you and the team across the support organization, but also our customers, we've actually added about 500 capabilities and features and enhancements to the service since we've launched, and we have really no intention of slowing down. So that feedback mechanism and feedback loop is absolutely critical. The other thing too, you mentioned the automation, and we're going to probably dig into a little bit of the AI conversation. We had a question from the audience I thought was really good. It's was your AI developed in-house or was it through a vendor? And I'll take a crack at this one if that's okay. And then, like most things, and then you can correct me if that's fair.
Yeah.
So from an artificial intelligence perspective, from Zoom all up, AI has been within the core and the fabric of Zoom for quite some time. Even things like the way we actually have developed our noise cancellation technologies and the way that we learn around backgrounds and lighting, etc. So part of really what we've grown up with, specific to conversational AI, however, we've had our own large language models for quite some time and our own algorithms that we use from an AI perspective. However, in March of 2023 or 2022, I'm sorry, we actually acquired a company called Solvvy, Solvvy. And Solvvy actually, their claim to fame was a conversational AI capability that really focused on a question answer methodology. And they had, predefined algorithms that they went to market with. And their goal was, how do we, leverage the internal data that organizations have and maximize it in a digital sense to be able to provide a high resolution rate for self-service. They joined our team, and since then we've moved that platform onto the Zoom platform in its entirety. And that, is kind of the foundation, I'll say, of our AI strategy from a conversational AI perspective. However, where we're going is we want to make sure that customers also have the ability to consume other AI models that they may have within their environment. And so I'll give you an example. We have a strategic relationship with Anthropic as an example. And the Anthropic relationship is such that we will provide the AI models on the front end from a conversational perspective. We can leverage Anthropic for very unique use cases that require maybe a higher resolution in terms of a subject or a topic or an area of focus. And then the ultimate outcome, though, is what Anthropic would call a constitutional AI model, where essentially, the end customer has kind of the latitude or the empowerment to kind of tweak the, how much is actually, the broad, open AI model, or how much of it is actually contained and based upon data within their environment. And you can blend that back and forth. That's one answer. And I think the other element that comes up is also, ChatGPT, OpenAI, and the conversation around that, where we've seen, the benefit of that is, again, leveraging our own AI models on the front end, and then consuming elements of ChatGPT in things like intent definition or even sentiment analysis. So broadening the aperture, if you will, to be able to provide a much more highly focused and definitive data, a large language model around sentiment is also benefiting our end customers as well. I'll pause there and go, feel free to correct anything I said, Jeff.
No, that was an absolute perfect explanation of what where our AI, really the genesis of it was. I mean, Zoom has a history, as you said. I think it's important. You think about our translation services and some of the other capabilities, some of the detection services that we already have in-house, and then we add Solvvy, and then we partner with Anthropic. The constitutional AI, I think, is an important point to bring up, because I see another question that's coming in around chatbot. So we'll probably get into this one now.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of conversation, I'm certain, before we get into AI about what really, first off, is the basis of the foundation of the AI platform. And I think it's really important to note that first off, AI doesn't exist without content, doesn't exist without knowledge. The AI reaches out somewhere and it defines a set of knowledge or set of information within certain parameters that are usually defined by the company, and then derives or infers answers from that. And I think that's what's really important is that, for any AI solution, good or bad, new or old, ChatGPT, anything proven or anything kind of emerging, is that none of them will really exist without a good, solid knowledge base, a base of knowledge that can be pointed to, and the AI can then infer and learn from and adapt to. That's probably the one thing I think that is missing from a lot of AI conversations. We're finding that out ourselves, and I think it's really important to know. So what we're doing, and just since we're talking about this, Scott, I'm going to go ahead and carry it right into the AI piece here, is that we are literally retooling how we are building and developing content, what our knowledge management practice is in preparation for what is to become our, the AI strategy of the future, right? There's a lot of unknowns around AI still. Not everybody understands exactly what it's going to be a year from now or 5 years from now. But what I will tell you is that if you looked at where contact centers were, where customer engagement experiences were 5 years ago, not much has changed. But with AI now, 5 years from now, it is going to be in a completely different space. We are going to be having completely different conversations if we all meet back here in 5 years. And that is much different. But 20 years in the past, it's varied a little bit, but we're really moving into a space that is going to be just, I think, revolutionary for this industry, revolutionary for customer experience. And so certainly there's some questions like I'm seeing coming in now that are going to help us. So we should probably start to walk through those, Scott, very quickly.
These are great questions. And I love the second question that came in, Jeff. It's really, the question is we're struggling a bit to build buy-in amongst our customers around adding more automation to our customer experience. And oftentimes, end customers will experience a challenge with a chatbot. And the question is, do we have any advice for them in terms of, kind of the philosophical consumption of a chat capability, and then, kind of the real world, hey, here's kind of the one or two things you need to consider to make it, actionable and make it impactful when you think about deploying it.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack on this particular one, and there is no single answer. I would say it really does it does require focus in a lot of different spaces. First, chatbot is not something that can be deployed and just let to run. It does need full-time management, and as sad as it is to say dedicating a headcount to a chatbot, it's just not practical for some companies. If you think about the amount of headcount and the number of resources that you're probably dedicating to a full-time live agent experience, affording one or two people to the chatbot experience to displace what would be 10, 20, 30x in the contact center is an easy investment to make, first off. So ensure that you've got the resources in place, and they are given titles of conversational designer, those that you would find in the industry, so that you can also, alongside your competition, you can be equivalent in what capabilities, or excuse me, at least what knowledge and experience that you have in the chair within your own organization. That's first and foremost. Second is a knowledge and content management practice. It has to be solid. I would recommend leveraging a philosophy such as knowledge-centered support, KCS, for those that may have heard of it, so that you're constantly capturing, listening, ear to the ground, every single issue that's coming in from a customer through chat, through phone, through email, capturing that and ensuring that all of those high hitter issues, the things that come back more than once, are being captured in self-service and published in the knowledge base for the chatbot search and AI. We'll talk about that in a minute, to be picked up, right? So your knowledge management practice, it absolutely has to be solid. The third thing is, I kind of touched on it earlier, customer experience is an art. It really is an art. And I think that, oftentimes there's some belief that you can, again, implement these tools, and doesn't have to be a lot of thought process around it. As long as you plug in the content, you plug in some workflows and some intents, it all is done. But you really have to give it a look. You have to feel like when you take that one home, as I said earlier, and you share it with somebody at the dinner table at home and say, does this work for you? Does this look like something that would make sense? If you had a question about how to fix fix this background, or, fix an audio issue that you were having with Zoom, et cetera, like would this flow make sense to you? And does it seem user-friendly to you? That is, I have to tell you, we trip up on that one more than any other, because being robotic is the last thing customers want to see, because being robotic means that they're talking to a robot, and most people don't want that. They want an experience that feels like it flows from automated to human interaction and back again. And if you've ever used any chatbots, like I don't know, American Airlines, or I guess American Express, I've used that one. It's pretty good. United Airlines has a pretty good one. There's a couple of good ones out there that you use them, and you really don't feel like you have been talking to anything other than a live person, when in reality, it was mostly an automated experience. It has to feel natural. Yeah. And that's the toughest part, I think, of building a chatbot experience, of course. And then lastly, there are key things that need to be automated, like resetting passwords and checking my bill balance and doing those kind of transactional things that I think you should, really kind of prioritize within the chatbot experience. Because if you can make those things simpler through the chatbot, you will get fans of the chatbot experience just through ease of doing some of the most mundane, simplest, straightforward tasks. I shouldn't have to call somebody and wait in queue to get my password reset. If I can do that through an automated mechanism chatbot, guess what? I'm coming back for the next question there as well.
Yeah. I think that's right on. One of the things that, we've actually gleaned from, like you said, thousands of customer conversations over the past couple of years, it really comes down to, really three things, if I had to distill it down. I mean, number one is, if it is an automated experience, whether it's a chat experience or whether it's a voice experience via, kind of an IVR and NLU experience, number one, know who I am. Right. And most of the time when we actually, seek information or have a question, and we've already either authenticated inside of a web experience, or we've, using our mobile app where we're authenticated as well. And so, there should be the premise of, hey, you kind of know who I am. So know who I am, first of all. And number two, understand what my relationship is with you. Am I a new customer? Am I an existing customer? Do I have a support ticket open? Do I, was I seeking out or seeking out information on a new product or service? So number one, know who I am. Number two, understand my relationship with you. And number three is provide me the path of most expedient resolution. Maybe a human being, maybe, a live chat experience, maybe an automated IVR experience. And those elements, while, they're really easy to say, are oftentimes difficult to execute upon. And so, Jeff's point, which I agree with 100%, there are, use cases that, are relatively repetitive and rudimentary and predictable. And picking one or two of those as a test bed for automation, whether it's in a voice or a chat experience, is outstanding. Number two, the conversational element in a chat or a voice experience is not really meant to be deployed in isolation or in a silo. So it needs to have the ability to triage inbound and then take that output and move it to the right, I'll just say, endpoint. Could be a human being, could be an automated queue, and in a way that's elegant and contiguous. And that oftentimes, again, is difficult to do. But once you get to a point where you can pick one or two use cases and you actually have some learning under your belt, that's really where it becomes powerful. And that kind of leads to the next question. What do we see, or what have we seen in terms of maybe mistakes that we've made or mistakes that we've experienced in the industry? And I'll just say, again, number one is a conversational or an automated solution, again, should not be viewed as an isolated workload, right? It's part of a bigger and broader strategy that needs to be connected. And then, number two is the ability to leverage the data within your organization as a starting point and a foundation is absolutely critical. So, again, these can be things like, knowledge management systems, Jeff, as you alluded to, could be, KB articles, it could be FAQs, lots of different data. Most organizations are not, wanting for bulky data within their environment. It's really, how do you make sense of that and then distill it down to serve it back to a customer in a way that is efficient and effective, and that we can actually help discern, the match between the query and the feedback.
You said it, Scott. We can all tell this is why this is not scripted, because you absolutely you touched on a point that I was saving for this next question that I see is rolling in here. It is about personalization. I think where I think digital support is going next, and conversational AI is riding this wave as well, is that it's really about creating a personalized experience. When folks come in, we should know you, we should know what experiences you've had with us previously. We should anticipate and infer based on the segment of the type of user you are, the account that you have, the plan that you have, the products that you subscribe to, et cetera. We should be able to amalgamate all of that, and then through frankly, a quite simple algorithm, be able to infer likely why you're here in the first place. Secondly, based on those questions that you've previously asked, be able to anticipate how you'd like your answer served up, the means at which, and then, of course, more importantly than anything else, give you the answers that are only relevant to you. In the typical experience, and I can tell you from Zoom day one for me, we were giving everybody the same answer, regardless of if you were an enterprise customer, with 10,000 licenses or whatever plus, or if you're just a single user, a free or even trial user. We're giving everybody the same answers, and that is not the experience that is going to bring customers back. And I will tell you, personalizing is probably the one thing that we can do going forward that I think will always improve or elevate the digital experience. And then you couple AI with that capability, then the gloves are off.
Yeah, that's right on. I think the other element to that, and this is something that we continue to evolve, but when you think about it, an experience that is digital plus live person, whether that's a voice or video or even a phone experience, there's also the concept that we're really digging into of what I'll call optimization of channel. So you think about the models that you're building and the learning that you're experiencing, and you'll start to see patterns in the data that would suggest certain inquiries are best facilitated by maybe one channel versus another.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if I have a relatively straightforward inquiry or relatively consistent output mechanism, then maybe that's an automated experience. If I have something that's much more I don't want to say complex, but maybe it has more moving parts, then maybe that's a live person experience via video or chat. So there is a way to also use that predictive modeling to point to which channel may be more effective. The cost question that just came up, Jeff, in terms of any advice for keeping the cost of deploying conversational AI down or containing that. So you're a practitioner of this, so I mean your opinion here is going to be much more valid than my response. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so certainly we touched on a few things. That the actual cost of deploying conversational AI certainly will first depend on the scale that we're talking about, right? The size of the customer base and how complex your product line, your product set is, and so forth that you're supporting. That's important. I will tell you this. I mentioned knowledge management. I think it's important to know that any customer going into this, if you do not have a solid knowledge management practice, your costs just went up, right? It's going to be more difficult for you to capture and respond to customers in a way that they would expect to receive a response, just to see success. We're doing a lot of testing with ChatGPT and the OpenAI concept right now, and we're seeing there's a lot of failure points. And I don't mean to dismiss the ChatGPT, but it's still an evolving space. We know that, having talked to a number of companies, they're still delivering their AI solutions, not even ready to deliver until Q3, Q4, Q1 of next year. And I will tell you, there's a lot of learnings that are still happening right now. Initially, the things that we do know is that content, of course, is key. Understanding the scope and probably trialing AI in a relatively narrower focused space is probably going to be the best solution for you to prove out that customer experience is indeed going to be positive, not negative. There are what we've seen with the current AI models, large language models, is that they're problematic and they have not yet learned everything, or they do not have yet the scope of knowledge that is required. They're not broad enough in such a way that they can infer answers or anticipate responses. So that's where I think we're seeing the most struggle. So probably start small, focus, ensure that you've got knowledge that addresses that entire breadth of or spectrum of focus that you're looking at, and then I think scale up from there. Keeping the cost of deploying conversational AI down, in the literal sense of answering that question, again, it's really your mileage is really going to vary.
Yeah, that makes sense. One element on knowledge management, I just wanted to underscore, the criticality around having the data and leveraging the data in such a way as it's impactful. We've been talking about the value of that in terms of an automated or a self-service experience. I think where that also translates to is leveraging that data, and I would argue the same data, in a way that provides a live agent experience is also incredibly impactful. So think of you have your knowledge management system and you have it structured in such a way as you can respond to end customers directly in a self-service ability. But that also then translates into a what I'll call maybe a next best action or a live agent experience, where if I'm interacting with somebody in a voice experience or a video experience or even chat, I will have the same content served to me as an agent so that I can help short circuit and resolve the customer inquiry real time. So it's actually a 2-for-1, if you will, right? It's great for self-service. It's also great for a live agent experience.
That's right.
With the end net result, again, of driving down that resolution time and really seeking a much shorter and expedient path to resolution.
Yeah, I think agent assist is something that we have not touched on in this conversation, and I'm glad you brought it up because this model, like let's just boil this down. This customer experience journey, it starts when the customer first contacts us for a trial download, as a free user, and it should continue consistently across that whole experience. We talked about personalization, we talked about interactions and really monitoring those and tracking, all of the data for success and failure along the way. And ultimately, when it gets to a live agent at the other end of the spectrum, those interactions should also be tracked, should also be monitored, and they should be, frankly, using the same knowledge base that the customers use as well. There's always some differentiation because there's some internal knowledge of process, et cetera, that we don't that's kept close to vest for obvious reasons. But if there is an agent, a good solid agent assist feature capability when it does reach the live agent, whether through chat or phone, that through a means such as a KCS methodology or some other Zoom contact center capability should then be flagged, captured, and then re-leveraged for self-service. The idea, of course, is to understand where knowledge is really effective and then bring it forward to ensure that the conversational AI, the chatbot, the knowledge base, the website search, et cetera, even Google are picking that up on the front end. And if it gets all the way to the agent and the agent is assisting using that knowledge and we have done something wrong, not tagged correctly, or et cetera, then there's a methodology in place to capture and bring it back to self-service.
100%. Yeah. It's a circle of life type conversation, right? It's ever evolving, it's ever getting better, it's ever changing. And certainly, as the business changes, right, which it will, all of ours will at some point in time, or we're in the middle of it right now. How do we keep up with that change and make sure our customers, aren't impacted as we go through a lot of the changes that we're experiencing? We're going to wrap up in about 3 minutes, Jeff, and I just wanted to stop and say, pearls of wisdom from Jeff Harling before we drop it. Turn over.
Yeah. So pearls of wisdom. Wow. Customer experience wise, I think it's important that we never take ourselves too seriously. We're all humans in this. We're humans on the side of developing that customer experience, but we're also humans on the side of consuming it. And I think that making those connections and not being too robotic about it, being, using natural language, using terms that customers would, appreciate, like saying, oops, we got it wrong this time, et cetera. Like those types of experiential type of touch points, I think, are really important, and they're by far more successful when you're being, frankly, transparent with the user. Don't hold too much back. Push as much knowledge out to the customer as possible. Certainly, with conversational AI, we're now changing the game, and make sure your spectrum is wide enough. Gather as much knowledge and focus that AI capability on as big a bank of knowledge as absolutely possible, so that you can ensure that all of the potential solutions are captured.
I think that's right on. And I also love your guidance on, hey, start small in a manageable way. Pick 1, 2, 3 things that are relatively straightforward, that are predictable in terms of resolution, that customers can, actually take advantage of right away. Start with 1 or 2 and just, build upon that. I think that's outstanding. I know certainly that's what you've done as well.
Absolutely.
So we will actually be jumping into the virtual booth, I think, after this and hanging out for a bit. And I look forward to meeting anybody there that is so inclined. And if there's further questions, happy to dig into those as well. But I think with that, Nick, I'm going to ask you to jump back on. I'll turn it over to you for some closing comments, and we'll go from there.
That's great. Thanks again, Scott and Jeff. That was an incredible keynote. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Have a great day, everybody.